I knew something was wrong the second I saw the charge. Not because it was huge, but because it was loud. Champagne. Event hall. Catering. Stuff I've never touched in my life. I was sitting at my kitchen table at 6:42 in the morning, coffee already cold, house dead quiet, staring at a bank statement that didn't belong to me anymore. I'm 72 years old. When you live this long, you learn the difference between help and being used. That morning, I finally stopped pretending I didn't know which one this was. My name is Margaret Collins, and I've lived carefully my entire life. Not scared. Careful. I spent 38 years working as a city accountant. The kind nobody remembers until something breaks. I fixed other people's math, corrected bad optimism, closed gaps before they swallowed budgets whole. Numbers were honest. People less so. When I retired, my pension wasn't fancy, but it was reliable. Rent, meds, groceries, heat in the winter. And most importantly, independence. I didn't want to ask anyone for anything. That changed when my daughter Rachel offered to help. She had kids. A husband named Tom who was always figuring things out. She said it would be easier if she managed some transfers. Just temporary. Just small amounts. Family helps family, right? Temporary lasted 6 years. At first, it was groceries. Then school fees. Then emergencies that showed up like clockwork. The numbers grew. Every time I asked, Rachel sighed like I was being inconvenient just by breathing. Mom, it's easier this way. Easier for who, she never said. That morning, I opened social media, something I rarely do, and there it was. Smiling faces. Balloons. Raised glasses. A celebration I wasn't invited to, paid for with money I earned and never approved. I didn't cry. Crying would have meant I was surprised. What I felt instead was calm. Sharp. Clear. They didn't take my money by accident. They took it because I'd been quiet long enough for them to think silence meant permission. And that's when I opened my folder. Because I keep records. Always have. And this time, I wasn't organizing memories. I was preparing for something they didn't see coming. I thought the worst part was discovering the charge. Until I realized how long I'd been letting it happen. By noon, I made a decision that didn't feel brave. It felt overdue. I put on my sensible coat. The one I wear when I don't want to be noticed, and walked 3 blocks to my bank. The teller recognized me immediately. People like me get remembered. We come often. We ask for little. I'd like a full record of outgoing transfers, I said. And I want them frozen. Today. She didn't rush. The printer hummed like it knew this mattered. Page after page slid out. Subscriptions I'd never used. Events I'd never attended. Locations I'd never been to. This wasn't survival money. This was lifestyle money. I'd also like to speak with a financial investigator, I added. That's when her expression changed. Not pity. Not annoyance. Respect. I walked home slower than usual. My pension would arrive next week untouched for the first time in years. I made soup and ate standing up, the way I used to when my husband was alive and time mattered. Rachel hadn't called yet. She would. She called at 9:07 the next morning. Mom, did you change something with the bank? Yes. A pause. Calculation. I froze the transfers. Her voice tightened. Why would you do that? You didn't ask permission, I said. We're family, she snapped. It evens out. That word again. Family. Always used when clarity becomes inconvenient. Tom's voice drifted in the background, already annoyed. Rachel lowered her tone like she was managing a problem employee. You're retired, she said. That money isn't going anywhere. I laughed once. Even surprised myself. It's going exactly where it should, I said. To keep me alive. Silence. Then anger. Then guilt. Then the accusation that hurt the most. You're being difficult. No. I was being accurate. By evening, messages poured in. Stress. The kids. Schedules. Commitments. Not one asked how I was. So I didn't answer. Instead, I laid out my documents like an audit. Dates. Amounts. Patterns. 6 years of quiet permission I'd never given. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Because for the first time, the numbers were back where they belonged. And so was I. They thought freezing the money was the end of it. They had no idea it was just the beginning. The first lie came 3 days later. Rachel showed up at my door without calling, holding a bakery bag like it was a peace offering she didn't actually believe in. I knew right away this wasn't an apology visit. This was a control check. "You look tired," she said, stepping inside before I invited her. "I slept great," I replied, and went back to the table. If she wanted to talk, she could sit. I wasn't chasing this conversation anymore. She sighed dramatically. "Mom, this whole thing has gotten blown out of proportion." "No," I said calmly. "It finally came into proportion." She slid the bag toward me. "I didn't touch it." "The party charge," she said quickly. "It wasn't what you think. Tom's friend was supposed to cover most of it. We were going to put the money back." "When?" I asked. She hesitated. "Soon." I opened my folder and slid a single page across the table. Dates. Amounts. Patterns. Entertainment expenses stacked neatly in black ink. Which of these were temporary? I asked. Her jaw tightened. "You're micromanaging." "I'm auditing," I said. "There's a difference." That's when she laughed, not kindly. "You're acting like we stole from you." "You used my pension without consent," I replied. "That's not acting. That's definition." Her voice sharpened. "You're being dramatic." There it was. The second lie. Label the truth emotional so you don't have to face it. "I've already contacted a financial investigator," I said. Her color drained instantly. "You did what?" "I asked for an independent review." She stood up fast. "Do you have any idea what this could do to us?" "I have an exact idea," I said. "I've been funding it." She paced like a trapped animal. "You don't even need all that money. You're alone. You don't go anywhere." That sentence landed heavier than all the rest. "My life doesn't need witnesses to be valid," I said quietly. She left without the bakery bag. That night, the investigator called back. Asked questions. Real ones. Treated me like someone whose time mattered. And for the first time, I realized something important. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing access. I thought confronting her was the hard part, until I found out there had been more than one party. I found out about the second party by accident. The pharmacist mentioned it while ringing up my prescription. "Hope you enjoyed the celebration last weekend," he said casually. "The one by the lake." I froze. "What celebration?" I asked. He smiled awkwardly. "Your daughter's. Big event. I helped with catering." I walked home slowly, legs steady, chest quiet. One party could be brushed off. Two meant routine. At home, I searched public venue bookings. 10 minutes later, I found it. Same date. Same amount. Same smooth transfer from my account. They hadn't just used my pension. They planned around it. That evening, Rachel texted, "We need to talk. This has gone too far." I didn't reply. I called the investigator instead. "There's additional unauthorized use," I said. Recurring. "Non essential." "I have documentation." He paused, not with doubt, but wait. "We'll need full access going back several years." "That's fine," I replied. "They're used to speaking for me." That night, Tom called. "You're embarrassing us," he said. "No, Ian Swarat. I'm documenting." "You could have just asked." "I did," I said. "For years." He hung up. I labeled a new folder on my desk. Not their name. Mine. For the first time in a long while, my pension wasn't funding celebrations I never attended. It was funding clarity. And clarity, once paid for, doesn't get refunded. They tried guilt. They tried fear. What they tried next surprised even me. And proved I was right all along. They changed tactics when guilt stopped working. Rachel came back a week later, softer this time. Quieter. Her voice dropped the way it used to when she wanted permission as a kid. She sat across from me with her hands folded, eyes careful. "Mom, we're worried about you," she said. "This investigation stuff, it's stressful. At your age, stress can be dangerous." There it was. Concern. The kind that only shows up when control slips. "I've handled stress before," I said. I raised a child and balanced a city budget. She shook her head. You don't understand how serious this could get. Paperwork can be misunderstood. People might think things that aren't true. They'll think whatever the records show, I replied. Her eyes flicked to the folder on the table. She knew what was in it. You signed the forms, she said quickly. You gave permission. I gave permission for help, I said. Not for parties. Not for recurring entertainment expenses. Not for 6 years of withdrawals without explanation. That's subjective, she snapped. What's essential to you isn't essential to us. I nodded. Exactly why it shouldn't come from my pension. She stood up. So now you're the victim? No, I said calmly. I'm correcting a mistake. Her voice hardened. Everyone's going to think we took advantage of you. They'll think what the records say, I answered. That's when she said it. The sentence that burned everything else away. You've always cared more about rules than people. I looked at her, really looked. Rules protect people, I said. Especially when kindness gets mistaken for weakness. She walked out without another word. That afternoon, the investigator called again. Has anyone tried to influence you since we started? He asked. Yes, I said. They've tried to convince me I'm confused. Please document that, he replied. I wrote it down. Date. Time. Summary. Because truth doesn't need emotion. It needs records. That night, sleep didn't come. And not because I was scared. I didn't sleep because my mind finally stopped lying to itself. At 2 a.m., I sat at my desk and opened an old notebook. Not the financial one. A blank one. I wrote a single sentence. When did helping turn into obligation? The answer came faster than I expected. It happened when requests became assumptions. When can you turned into we already did. When being needed felt safer than being respected. By morning I was tired, but clear. Rachel texted early. We can fix this if you stop now. There was no how are you? No are you okay? Just compliance dressed up as peace. I didn't respond. Later that day, I received an email from the investigator outlining next steps. Formal notices. Requests for explanation. Possible referrals. Procedure. Not drama. That afternoon, I called my pension office directly. Is my pension intended to fund third-party lifestyle expenses indefinitely? I asked. There was a pause. No, ma'am, the representative said. That wouldn't be appropriate use. That was all I needed. That evening, Tom emailed, long, dramatic, full of words like family, loyalty, responsibility. He mentioned my age twice. My health once. He never mentioned the parties. I printed it and filed it. By nightfall, something unexpected happened. I wasn't anxious anymore. I wasn't imagining apologies or consequences. I wasn't rehearsing conversations. I felt distance. Clean, quiet distance. For the first time in years, my survival didn't depend on being agreeable. And I realized something that changed everything. They weren't trying to understand. They were trying to wear me down. And I was done being exhausted for other people's comfort. By the time the transfers officially froze, they weren't asking anymore. They were panicking. The transfers froze on a Thursday at exactly 3:17 p.m. I know because I wrote it down. Not out of fear, out of habit. Moments that change your life deserve accuracy. The bank's message was short and unemotional. All third-party automatic payments have been suspended pending review. That was when the silence shattered. Rachel called within 20 minutes. I watched the phone ring until it stopped. Then again. Then Tom. Then a number I didn't recognize. I deleted that one without opening it. By evening, the messages turned urgent. Cards are declining. Payments are bouncing. You've put us in an impossible position. I cooked dinner anyway. Nothing special. I wasn't celebrating. I was adjusting. Tom showed up that night. He knocked like urgency gave him permission. I opened the door but didn't step aside. This is insane, he said. Do you know how humiliating this is? You should talk to your bank, I replied. I had to. You can't just cut us off like this. I didn't cut you off, I said. I removed unauthorized access. He stared at me like I'd insulted him in a foreign language. You're enjoying this, he accused. No, I said. I'm surviving it. Rachel stepped forward. Her eyes were red. Mom, please. Just give us time. I gave you 6 years, I said. You used it. They stood there waiting for me to soften. To do what I always did. Compromise myself to restore their comfort. I didn't. This conversation is over, I said. Any further communication goes through the investigator. I closed the door. My hands shook afterward, not from fear, but release. That night, I checked my account. For the first time in years, it reflected only my life. And I slept deeply. The pressure didn't stop, it just found new voices. Once money stopped flowing quietly, everyone suddenly had an opinion. My sister left a message asking why I was causing conflict at my age. A cousin I barely remembered suggested I was being prideful. A former neighbor called to say Rachel was under terrible stress, and I should be more understanding. Not one asked what happened. That told me everything. Tom sent another email. I printed it and read it slowly. Family loyalty. Sacrifice. Damage to the children. 7 uses of the word responsibility. 0 mentions of consent. I filed it. Rachel called the next afternoon, crying for real this time. We're drowning, she said. Everything's falling apart. I listened without interrupting. We never meant for it to get this bad, she said. It didn't get bad, I replied gently. It was arranged. Silence. So you're done being our safety net, she said flatly. I was never meant to be one, I said. I was meant to be your mother. She hung up. That evening, the investigator called. Formal notices had been sent. Responses requested. You may experience increased contact, he warned. I am, I said. And I'm documenting. The next day, Tom came back alone. I need you to reconsider, he said quietly. Just until we get back on our feet. Your feet were never on the ground, I replied. They were on my back. He left without arguing. That night, I wrote down every attempt at contact. Dates. Times. Summaries. Noimuushin. Just truth. I went to bed early and slept without interruption. Because pressure only works on people who still believe they owe access to their lives. And I didn't anymore. By the time I took the final step, it didn't feel like escalation. It felt like closure. The last step didn't feel like revenge. It felt like paperwork. I scheduled an in-person meeting with the pension oversight office. The woman on the phone asked if someone would be coming with me. No, I said. I'll come alone. That mattered more than she realized. The building was modern, all glass and soft chairs, the kind of place designed to make people feel calm while serious things are discussed. The advisor was young, younger than my daughter, and spoke gently at first, like she was worried I might misunderstand. I corrected that quickly. I'm here to report prolonged third-party misuse of my pension funds, I said. I'd like to review how authority was granted, and how it was exceeded. Her posture changed immediately. We went through the original forms together. The wording was narrow. Temporary assistance. Basic support. Oversight retained by me. This level of spending would normally trigger a review, she said quietly, scrolling through statements. It didn't, I replied. Because no one expects an older woman to notice. She didn't argue. By the end of the meeting, a formal notation was added to my pension file. A record. Something permanent. On the way home, Rachel texted. Why are you involving more people? Isn't this enough? I didn't answer. Enough is what people say when they've already taken too much. That afternoon, I met with an independent financial advisor. We locked everything down. No third-party access. Monthly reviews sent directly to me. Clean lines. Clear boundaries. It's overdue, he said. Yes, I replied. But it's done now. That night, the messages turned sharp. Accusations. Threats. Vague warnings about consequences. I forwarded everything to the investigator. I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. When the consequences finally arrived, they didn't come with shouting. They came with silence. The silence lasted weeks. Rachel stopped calling completely. That quiet weighed more than any argument. Silence means recalculation. It means the story has changed. Tom unraveled more openly. Late-night messages. Missed calls. One short conversation where his voice sounded brittle. "They're asking questions," he said. "Real ones." "That's what questions are for," I replied. A week later, the investigator informed me the review had expanded. Documentation requested. Deadline set. Rachel came once after that. She looked unsettled, not angry, not defiant, just unsure of where to stand without leaning on me. "They think we planned it," she said. "You did," I replied. She stared at the floor. "We didn't think it mattered." That sentence told me everything. My comfort. My future. My limits. They hadn't mattered enough to ask. Life after that grew quieter, but steadier. My pension arrived untouched. I paid bills without calculating guilt. I bought better food, replaced a chair that hurt my back, scheduled doctor visits I'd postponed for years. None of it felt indulgent. It felt corrective. When the final letter arrived, it was thin and unremarkable. Findings recorded. Unauthorized use confirmed. Case closed. No spectacle. No apology. Just clarity. Rachel called once more. Her voice was careful. "I didn't think it would end like this." "It didn't end," I said. "It clarified." We spoke briefly. Politely. Like people acknowledging a shared past without trying to rebuild it in the same shape. That evening, I cooked dinner and set the table even though I was alone. Not to pretend I wasn't, but to honor the fact that I was worth the effort anyway. At 72, you stop needing justice to be loud. You stop mistaking endurance for love. I had spent years funding my own erasure and calling it family. I stopped. And everything finally made sense again. If this story felt familiar, it's because too many people disappear quietly into usefulness and forget they're allowed to say no. And like and subscribe channel for more.